afternoon, and I would like to call to order this meeting of the Curriculum Committee. As a reminder, Curriculum Committee members are myself, Shay Woodbury, Elizabeth Motzinger, Leah Crowley, and Andrea Bramer. We have one discussion item this evening. It's regarding Avid, the advancement by way of individual determination update, and that's by Sajada Latin. Oh, okay, and Aaron Edwards is going to be assisting.
Good afternoon. I'm Erin Edwards, Director of Advanced Learning, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our new AIG Secondary Lead, Penny Martin. She will be supporting our Avid Secondary program. The mission of Avid is to close the opportunity gap by preparing all students for college readiness and success in a global society. To date, our district has 6 middle and high schools who are participating. The Avid program prepares students for success in rigorous courses. Students are able to develop skills, habits, strategies, and behaviors to use their knowledge and develop as readers and writers. This program supports students to reach their academic goals and our strategic goal 2 in our district's strategic plan. Avid provides intensive supports to accelerate students who have potential in our rigorous courses. Avid allows these students to develop strong teacher relationships as well as strong peer relationships that are positive. With hard work and determination, they gain personal achievements and live their dreams. Our Avid program successfully supported students' engagement and success in rigorous coursework in our first year with the program last year. Not only does this program support students in the elective course, but school-wide strategies are utilized to increase student access to rigorous academics. The Winston-Salem Foundation recently awarded a grant of roughly $35,000 to continue our Avid efforts. Our schools have experienced professional learning and Avid strategies in writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading, as well as rigorous classroom methods. We will be facilitating Avid tutorial training and Avid elective training in the next month. These strategies will support our students as they advance their learning. And we're headed to Parkland to support our IB program. There's an IB parent night, but we're here to answer any questions that you have.
How many students do you see participating?
So it varies based on the schools. Some of our schools have the Avid elective integrated throughout all of their students. So Winston-Salem Prep is utilizing that model. Virtual Academy is utilizing that model. And then other schools are utilizing just a single elective class per grade level. So it allows autonomy for each school to support students as they need. But all of the students receive that school-wide support.
And this is for students who are typically, or you would hope to be, that have the potential to be college bound?
Correct. So often they're first-time college students, but they have that potential for rigorous coursework.
Okay. And I'm just curious, is there any component of Avid that would help children, since I guess a lot of it would help children, guide them toward a career in a technical area, or does it go into those venues as well?
It absolutely does. So whatever success looks like beyond their secondary careers, so it could be college, it could be a career, it could be going into the Army, all of those different avenues are explored.
Okay, so it could be a technical field, like a 2-year for
Absolutely.
degree as well. So okay, great.
Yes,
Super.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
ladies.
much.
Have fun at Parkland.
We will. Thank you.
That was a quick meeting. I think this is probably a record breaker, but anyway. The announcements are our next curriculum meeting is October 25th. So I guess I can turn it over to we might have time to take a nap. Anyway, to the Finance Committee, Ms. Monsignor.
I'm actually trying to check because the members are myself, Leah Crowley, Lyda, Davis, I guess we do have a majority, and Alex. So this is calling the Finance Committee to order. And again, the members are myself, Leah Crowley, Lyda Calvert-Hayes, Dana Cottle-Jones, and Alex Bohannon. And we have Mr. Tommy Krantz talking about two discussion items, the fiscal year 2022 year-end budget transfers and adjustments.
Good afternoon. The first one is a year-end standard, which you see at the end of the year, we true up everything between funds within PRCs and make sure everything balances out. Obviously, with the number of PRCs, the number of different funds that we have, during the year it becomes rather difficult. And so it's a true-up time where you catch it all at one time. And so this is the standard year-end adjustment you've seen in the past, where there's transfers and budgets within those funds. So I ask for y'all's approval tonight.
Okay. And any questions? Okay, and then the second item is the discussion and introduction of fiscal year 23-24 budget calendar.
So in my prior districts, we always did a budget calendar so that it kept the administration as well as the school board on track of where we should be, and ensured that we were big, and I know y'all are too, about public input, doing public hearings, and getting as much input as we can from everybody. So the budget that you see there, the calendar as proposed, is basically broken down into the following components. The first one is the principle behind it is site-based and zero-based. So site-based means if I'm an individual responsible for a group or groups, I have my budgets that I can control or I can manage. Zero-based means every year, just because you got X amount of dollars in the prior year does not mean you're going to get X amount of dollars in the next year. Zero-based is you make your request, then you look and see where revenues are in relationship to those expenses, and you have to make difficult choices, because I can tell you now, and I'm sure all of you would agree, you don't have enough, as a district, we don't have enough money to cover everybody's request. That is true. And, yeah, it's a little bit worse here, though, than what I thought. But difficult choices have to be made, because at the end of the day, the budgets have to be equal. The budgets have to be balanced. And there is no magical pot of money out there. I know a lot of people think that y'all up here on the dais have that authority just to kind of create it. And we don't have that. If the budget's balanced, then anything that comes in after that is a non-budgeted item. It could come from anywhere. It can come from any source. But at the end of the day, once that budget's adopted by the superintendent and then you as a school board, it's final. And there is no magical pots. Every dollar gets allocated. So we're going to break this down differently than we've done. You'll see that we'll begin the process of collecting information on revenues early, with the goal that when we come to y'all in January, we've actually received input from all schools and departments on their personnel. That'll be the first component. They'll do that based off the positions. They're not going to do it on the dollars. They do it on positions, and we'll use averages and actual cost. Then we'll give them the non-personnel component, and that's the piece that they can manage. Okay? Now, you can do the same thing on personnel as if I've got, say, 2 vacancies and I need something. You could buy it, basically turn those vacancies over and convert it into cash and use it for non-personnel if you don't need it. But you got to have something. You can't come to the table and say, I need 2 more positions. If the budget's balanced, you have to come up with the money yourself. Okay? It makes true accountability. There is no magical pots. So that's the whole premise of this. That'll be why we'll work with the schools and the departments on their budgets from a personnel standpoint, then from the non-personnel, with the goal of having a good, solid draft mid-February. That would then give us a chance to finalize it with the superintendent, then make a presentation to y'all as a board and let you begin your public hearings. I encourage you to do at least one, if not two, public hearings, maybe more. I'm a big believer of taking the budget on the road and doing it, whoever wants to talk about the budget, I'll talk to them about the budget. Okay? The more input you can get, the better the document will be, as well as they'll become the big supporters. They may not agree with every decision that gets made, but they at least understand it. And then I find that they're better stewards of what we're trying to do. So you'll see the timeline as we go to the county with our budget approved by May 1st. That's set in our rules. Get from them, finalize what the state and the county will do, and come back to you in early June, even May, depending on the time frame, with the final budget. Make any necessary changes that you may want to do. We're ready in the latter part of June to start giving those budgets out to the schools and the departments. So that's the plan. I think it's very doable. It will be a challenge this year because it's new, but I'm pretty confident we can accomplish it. And if you think I'm crazy, just tell me. I'll gladly accept that.
I would like to see at some point where we're aligning it to our strategic plan.
We'll do that throughout the whole budget process.
Great.
What I would ask that y'all as a board is, when y'all are able to, start pulling together what's your goals and objectives. I mean, I know that typically everybody wants to see a pay increase. You're going to want to start addressing the compression, as we've talked about at previous meetings. There may be other needs that are out there. You want to put down everything that's asked for on the table. If they don't ask, they can't even get considered. At least if everybody asks, then everything can be considered. It doesn't mean we can do it all, but at least it has an opportunity to at least maybe get into the mix or on a smaller scale. But we'll do that we'll ask for y'all's input early in this process.
So is there a process for asking for different things? Like if teachers say they need this or principals say they need that, how would
Get
they-
everything to me, because we keep a file that I've had, within the administration departments looking for things.
Okay.
And so things that are not in our budget today, we're collecting those points. And those will all be up for consideration as we work with the superintendent on, at the end of the day, what she's comfortable. Again, difficult choices will have to be made, and she's already got us working on 25's budget, where ESSER 3 ends. So she's instructed us, and we're working diligently, the whole administration is, her team, to start beginning that process. We haven't solved it all, obviously, but the process has begun. And the sooner you do it, the better the opportunity to be successful. So.
Mr. Krantz, there is a raise in the state budget for employees, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it being equally applied to all
No, ma'am.
employees?
No. So when the state does their raise, typically they have two compressions that start at about step 15, go to step 24, and then step 25 that goes through step 32. Their raise at the 15 and below is at 2.6%. The raises above 15 are at 4.3%.
Or was that backwards? Is it?
No, 4.3 from 14 up to 0. So step 0. I do it differently. Everybody else goes from the bottom up.
Okay, I was a little
Because
confused.
the schedule is 0's at the top.
Okay.
That's why. So don't think I am nuts. It is starting at 0 at the
Okay,
top.
so 0 to 14, they're getting 4%?
Right. But now,
15 to 24, and that's our teachers and certified staff, they're only scheduled to get 2 point.
they're scheduled, if I look if I'm on step 15, and this is how everybody calculates it. I was making on step 15 a year ago, X. I go to step 15 this year, why? My difference would be 2.6% increase. Now, what you also got to factor in is doing the step. So on the certified schedule, it's at $100 per step. That actually on 0 to about 5 works out a little bit above 3%, just going from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. When you get into steps 14, 15, where you're a little bit more money, you're talking about more closer the step increase is 2%. So we could have employees where we, and I've made the representation, at a 4% raise, but this is historically what this district has done, is it's an average of 4%, but it is not per se an employee. I can't guarantee you that every employee got a 4% raise. The longer you've been here, the state's compressing their numbers.
But-
Okay?
But if I'm, say, a second year to a third year, or a fifth year to a sixth year, I have a step increase in addition to a raise.
Correct.
Whereas if I'm 15 to 24 years, I'm not getting step increases
Correct.
anymore.
Correct.
So basically, at 15 years,
You lose that, at that point about 1%, because, their number's up so high. 1 to 1.5% would be their, if you kept the 100, because $100 is their increase. You get to a certain point at 15, you start seeing it getting below 2%. And then eventually it gets below 1%.
and of course, one of the biggest concerns is losing employees once they are, that's the best part of people's career for the most part, is after they've been in a classroom for 15 years.
Right.
So,
So your most experienced teachers are the ones being impacted the most.
When the state advertises and we advertise a 4% raise, to me, this does not equate to a 4% raise. And so, Mr. Kranz and I talked, I would like to satisfy that 4% raise that people think they're getting,
Right.
that they may not be getting. It wasn't clear to me the way the state, I didn't see if it was, I don't think did it say there's an average of a 4% raise? It sounded like
It's at 4% raise.
4% raise. So, Mr. Kranz, will you tell the board what it would take possibly for us to address that?
It would take just about $1 million. We're running some preliminary numbers, but I think that's, I know it's the will of the superintendent, that I think we can put together a plan and fiscally be able to cover that increase. But
I just think that's incredibly important. It's really disheartening to the people who have hung in public education all these years to just say to them, now that you're deep in your career, too bad. That just seems wrong. So I would hope that we would find a way to do that 4% raise.
I think we can do it.
And I would also hope that the board could perhaps collectively send a letter to the General Assembly saying, when you tell people they're getting a 4% raise, that should be across the board. Because it has huge impact on people's feelings about their
Correct.
work.
Yep.
And that does hurt morale. So perhaps the board, we could, if there's a place we can make an agreement, to just ask the General Assembly to keep the promise that they're advertising to state employees. If they're saying they're doing it, we should ask them to do it. Yes.
When you are generating input from the different departments and schools, and do we have a form? Do we have something that we send out to them?
It'll be a
with-
form, so you'll have on the personnel side, it basically lists their positions. Are you intending to keep these positions? I'm not intending to keep it. Why? Then what am I requesting, and why are you requesting those positions? On the non-personnel, you'll take each line item or object, as we call it, and you'll say, I'm going to budget $12,000 for travel. I'm just picking a number, $12,000 for travel. Well, I'm going to go to 6 conferences. I'm just picking something. The 6 conferences are A, B, C, D, E, and F. You give it as much detail as possible, because there's just too many people when we start trying to balance the budget. that you can bring everybody in, and it takes a lot of time to pull this together. So the better the detail is, that's why finance will sit down with each department before we sit with the superintendent and truly understand, so that as you're trying to balance it, you're making the best decisions possible. And then you go back to the departments. Once that's done, you give them one final look at it. And then after that, you're ready to roll to the county, to y'all for adoption, the county, and then begin that process.
Okay, good. You answered my second question about departments and how you were going to do that.
Yes,
so-
ma'am.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Any other comments? Just one comment is I really like the idea of being very, very clear, particularly given that there's going to be a turnover in the board during this time. And I think if a new board comes on, understanding very clearly that once you've adopted the budget, that's the budget, and you can't revisit that on projects until the next budget, I think that will be a lot easier if it's clear all along that that's what's going to be true. So I appreciate this process and coming to us so early and so clearly.
Okay?
So,
All right, well, thank y'all very much.
thank you, thank you. And after the shortest curriculum committee meeting on record, I believe this is the shortest finance committee on record. And the only announcement is that we will be meeting on Tuesday, October 25th as a finance committee.
We have to take
We have an action item.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, to consider the, I'd
Oh,
like to
I
make
am
a
so
motion.
sorry, I apologize.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the final budget amendment and transfer for 21-22 school year.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? That passes, thanks. Thank you, Ms. Crowley. So our next meeting is October 25th, and now to the chair.
Okay, thank you. I would like to call the meeting to order. May I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss a personnel matter?
So moved.
Second? Okay, all right, all in favor? Thank you.
I promise there's going to
Thank you for joining us on Your School Channel, Cable 2.